Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's session on intermediate Zoom. Today we get to play with the fun stuff in Zoom that we never have time for in the introductory sessions, or not much time for it anyway. We'll try to see how we can stretch Zoom a little bit to using some of its more extended features, shall we say. I'm going to be sharing my screen much of the day, so let me go ahead and do that. But among the updates that have occurred lately, and that's something I need to deal with. If you haven't already updated your Zoom client, you need to do that before the 30th, or you'll find yourself going into a meeting and forced to update the client then when it's not convenient.
I'm sorry, Dave?
Yes.
Regarding the update, I was able to do it on my computer laptop, but
Right.
I had a problem with doing it with the Android phone.
It should be the usual process for updating an app. I can't show you that on an Android phone because I don't have one. I can show it to you later on an iPhone. But yeah, you would want to update your mobile app as well. Though the one that's critical is what you're seeing right now is that's the, or you should be seeing right now. Let's see. I am not seeing that. That's interesting. Huh.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I stopped in the middle of my screen share. Sorry. I got halfway through and didn't finish the process, trying to figure out why you weren't seeing this. I have a little repeater over here on the side that shows me what you're seeing. Okay. You are seeing my screen right now, which of course is my Zoom screen. And one of the nice new things that has happened is that you can now make Zoom show you the host screens when you're working with your students and you want to show them how to do something in the Zoom menus, like the security menu down here. Now that shows up. I can send that downstream rather than having to pre-record it and play a movie in class to show it to you. And that's a relatively recent development. They used to have a less functional version of that, but
so you can show a movie on Zoom. You can show a movie on Zoom.
Absolutely.
But it will be beautiful. When I tried to show a movie on Zoom and it looked good to me, but my husband pretending to be a student, it was digitalized and the sound didn't work.
That could have had something to do with you saturating your internet connection. Normally it looks pretty good. Okay. There is a setting under screen share that optimizes your screen sharing for video. You might try that.
Okay.
But normally it's okay. Sometimes there are some issues with lip sync in the dialogue section, but it's usually not that bad.
Okay, thank you.
You also have to select the option to share your sound. Otherwise, your attendees will see the movie but not hear it, which comes up fairly frequently. Okay, so
thank you.
To update your Zoom client, you go to your, just start Zoom on your desktop. This is the desktop client, of course. And go to your little avatar image or your silhouette up here if you haven't uploaded a profile picture.
Okay.
And click on you and go to check for updates. And it will lead you through it will tell you if you need to update, or if there are updates available, and give you the option to update from there. I just updated mine this morning, so it could tell me I'm up to date. But you have to update to the 5.x version of the client by Sunday, or they'll force you to, and it'll interrupt you in the middle of a as you're starting up a meeting which is less than ideal.
Hey, Dave, this is Marlene.
Hey, Marlene.
Hi, how are you? I had a question about that because I was told that on computers, it automatically updates.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
then
but it will
on the
stop
tablet-
you. It'll stop you in your tracks and force you to do it. And it doesn't automatically update until you try to start a meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought, well, go ahead and update it. I'm asleep. I don't care.
Right. Me too, Kathleen.
Yeah, just it'll be smoother for you if you go ahead and update in advance.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks.
Good. All right. So let me pull my Zoom screen back. I know this is a little distracting, but it's so you're seeing exactly what I see, to the point of seeing you multiple times. But that's a very useful feature, to be able to share your Zoom menus with your students when you're trying to show them how to do something in a meeting. And that is a meeting setting. Let me pull that up over here on another screen. Another thing that's very handy when you're doing Zoom meetings is having multiple screens to work with. And most desktops and all laptops have the option for a second monitor without any extra hardware modification or anything like that, except just a cable to plug the monitor in and an extra monitor, physical monitor. The setting for that is buried way down in the meeting settings. And I can never find it other than just going through looking for it. Sorry about this. I know it's a little
No, this is good.
vertiginous. Here we go. Show Zoom windows during screen share.
Okay.
If you turn that on, you get this effect that you're seeing with me right now. Show Zoom windows during screen share, where I can show you how to do things, like the participants window. I can share with you.
Okay.
That used to be much more difficult. And I can show you what I'm doing. Like, I'm getting some occasional background noise right now, so I'm going to mute everyone. I'm going to give you the option to unmute yourself whenever you like, but that will quiet a meeting down immediately. If somebody's forgotten to left their microphone open and something starts happening around them, somebody runs by with a lawnmower or something like that, you can control that very quickly as the host. And then in an extremely large meeting, you may have to uncheck that option that said allow participants to unmute themselves. If you get too many people in a meeting, you may have to lock it down to where you're the only one they can hear. And then you, of course, can change that later in the meeting if it's appropriate. But right now, certainly I want everyone to be able to unmute themselves. And since this is an intermediate Zoom seminar, I want to assume you know how to do that, but let me know if that's a problem. Also, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat tool, putting your name and your email address. I see a lot of you have already done that in anticipation of that request, but that gives me a roster. So I appreciate that. Now, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. There are three things that we'll spend most of our time on today: breakout rooms, polling, and virtual backgrounds are the things that people always have a lot of questions about. I put that third so we get through the other two first, because we could probably spend all of our time on playing with virtual backgrounds, which is one of the more fun things with Zoom. So we'll save that until we get these other two out of the way. And we'll talk a little bit about live streaming as well. Something you can do if you have a meeting if you have more attendees than you can accommodate, which with the Confer Zoom accounts we have is relatively unlikely, because you have 300 you can have up to 300 attendees with full two-way capability. But occasionally it's useful to be able to live stream as well. So let's start off by talking about breakout rooms. Breakout rooms, of course, are the virtual equivalent of that old practice in the classroom of having people move their desks around and gather into work groups to pursue some sort of project, maybe a group an ad hoc group presentation, or a work together on some assignment, series of different assignments, and then share the results later with the class and so on. And so breakout rooms in Zoom allow you to do that virtually. Essentially, it fragments the Zoom meeting into a main room and some number of breakout rooms. And you can send your attendees to those breakout rooms and let them work together, and then bring them back to the main room and maybe have them report on what they were doing, whatever. It's actually a pretty simple process in Zoom. The breakout rooms tool should be down here in your, there we go, should be down here in your Zoom menu. If you don't see it there, it means there's something it's not been enabled in your Zoom meeting settings, because your Confer Zoom accounts have that capability, but you may have to turn it on. You do that by going to, again, to zoom.us and to your settings link in the Zoom management screens. And scrolling down, I'm just going to search for breakout here. Save you on that. There we go. The setting that says breakout room, and you just turn it on, and that little tool will appear in your Zoom meeting the next time you start a Zoom session. There's an optional ability to allow you to assign participants to breakout rooms before you start the meeting. This, of course, requires you know in advance who's going to attend the meeting. And this requires a process called registration, which you can do for folks, you can do for meetings where there's going to be a fairly well-defined attendance. You know more or less who's going to attend. You can force them to sign up for the meeting. And that gives you capability to set these breakout rooms up in advance. That never happens for me. I never know who's going to show up, so that's not an option. I'm going to show you how to set up breakout rooms on the fly as you start your meeting, or once you've started your meeting. And it's a real simple process. We just click on that breakout rooms icon, and we're given the option to create some number of breakout rooms. From one, I think that you can have up to 50, which I can't imagine dealing with. I don't even want to think about a Zoom meeting that would require 50 breakout rooms. Here we've got 27 people. So I might decide to do maybe, I don't know, half a dozen breakout rooms. I just tell Zoom the number I want. And I know that may be a little small. The text inside this box is not huge. Remember, as an attendee, watching someone who's sharing their screen, as I am right now, you'll see a little button at the top of the screen that's labeled View Options. And if you click on that, you have several different options for controlling how you see the shared screens. You can magnify them. You can fit them to the window so you don't have to scroll back and forth to see what's going on. You can set up a side-by-side option where you see the shared screen on one side and some video windows on the other, like a subset of gallery view on the right. Try those out as we're working today. You'll see different options there. But especially something that's especially useful, you can magnify what I'm showing you and make it easier to see. That's on a computer. On a mobile device, you can usually, almost always, pinch zoom your the shared screen by just putting your thumb and your forefinger on the screen and spreading them apart. You can magnify it. You'll then have to use your fingertip to move you're kind of looking through a window into the shared screen. You have to move that window around to see different parts of the shared screen, but you can see the part that I'm talking about much more readily that way. So I'm picking 6 rooms, and I have the option to automatically or manually or manually assign people. Manually assigning 26 participants is going to take a while. Let me just show you what the screen looks like. If I click manually and I do create rooms, I get 6 breakout rooms, and I can assign people to each room by clicking on the assign link over here and then picking people out specifically. Like if I know that Kathleen and Luann want to be together, I can make sure that I assign them to the same room. But that can, in a large meeting, that can take a while. That's where it'd be nice to be able to assign these things in advance. But again, that's not always practical. So that's how that would go about, how you would go about that. I, on the other hand, am just going to go back and hit breakout rooms again and go back to, I'm just going to recreate them. And I'm going to select automatic assortment of people in the breakout rooms. It tells me about how many people I'll have in a room. With 4 to 5 is probably pretty good. So I'll recreate those rooms, and there folks are just randomly assorted among breakout rooms. And that's a lot quicker for you. You can always see who's in a particular room and alter it by clicking on the number of participants in each room, which is a link. And you get a little menu there, and you can unclick people and take them out. If you take them out of a breakout room, they're going to be left in the main room when I open the breakout rooms. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And you can always, again, reassort these rooms by clicking recreate and starting over again.
Dave, is there a way, this is Marlene, is there
Hey,
a way,
Marlene.
if you want to move one student, say they speak the same languages, so you want to move a student from breakout room 1 to breakout room 2, can you do that just by dragging their name?
Not exactly, no, unfortunately that doesn't, but you can just mouse over them and click move to.
Okay.
And move them to to a desired room.
when you
And
go to,
you even have the option of picking, if you don't want one room to have more people in another, you even have the option of picking someone to swap them with.
oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good question. And yeah, you do have some options vis-a-vis breakout rooms, because by default, when I click open rooms, it's just going to send you all a message and ask you to move to the breakout room, but not take you there. You have to do it yourself. You have to confirm that. And that can take a while. If you want people put there right away, you have options. You can move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. And that eliminates people not paying attention and staying in the main room instead of going, it's like taking little Johnny by the ear and dragging him over to the right table. That's, again, optional. By default, participants can return to the main session at any time. But if you uncheck that, they're trapped in the breakout room until such time as you close the breakout rooms. Or they can leave the meeting entirely, but they can't get back to the main room. You can set an automatic time limit. Like you say, okay, we're going to go into breakout rooms and we're going to spend 20 minutes there. And you work on this project, and then in 20 minutes, you're coming back here. You can set them to expire after a certain period of a certain number of minutes, so that you don't have to go back in as the host and manually close them. And after you close, or after the rooms expire, or you close them as the host, people get some number of seconds to finish their business in the room. It doesn't just unceremoniously just haul them back into the main room, or into the principal Zoom room. But 60 seconds is a little bit long. I like to make that about, your options are, you can go as low as 10 or as high as 120. I don't think you can't type another number in there. So 10 seconds is the minimum amount of time, minimum amount of notice that you can give someone in order that the breakout rooms are closing, and boom, everybody shows back up in the main room.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you. And when you put students in the different breakout rooms, is it possible to go visit each breakout room? Because I would do that in the classroom, and I would love to do that in the digital ones.
Yeah,
make sure, like, what are you guys doing?
Indeed. You don't want them out of sight, out of mind for 20 minutes. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right, exactly.
Oh, no, you as the host, and I'll show you that here in a minute. You as the host have the capability to join any of the rooms. And once I start this, I'll have for each breakout rooms, I'll have a little join link. And I can just go between them at my preference.
Okay,
and,
sorry. Did you show that? I clicked something incorrect, and I was trying to fix it. Have you demonstrated that yet?
I have not. No, I haven't opened the rooms yet. We're all still in the main room.
Okay, I apologize. Okay.
Oh no, that's fine. That's the button right there that will start all of this off. And
you know what I did?
Is
I made my videos, my feed so large, and your shared feed is so small, and I can't figure out how to get it back. I did it on accident.
Click. So the shared screen is in a little window in the upper right.
Right.
Yeah, go up and click on that. I think if you just click on that window, it'll.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Dave?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I have a question. If my breakout rooms box here does not look like yours, it does not have the recreate option, does that mean I need to update my Zoom account?
Oh, no, it just means that you're not the host.
Okay, thank you.
What,
No, but in my class, in
yeah.
my Zoom class, I don't have that in my Zoom class when I'm the
You
host.
don't have, yeah, you want to update your Zoom client is the
Okay,
most
thank
likely explanation for that.
Thank
Yes.
And Dave, just one more question. Are you going to touch on how to prevent Zoom bombing, or is that some other class or some other time?
I'll be happy to address that. I do have
Okay.
a.
I don't want it to dominate the whole thing, but I mean,
no.
it does make you paranoid.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I want to reassure you that is. Oh, hi, Kathleen. I see you waving your hand, but you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second, and I'll be with you in just a second, Kathleen. But I really wouldn't worry too much about that.
Okay.
I do a lot of Zoom meetings, and my Zoom personal meeting link has been spread to the tall timbers repeatedly. Okay. And I have been Zoom bombed once.
I'm wondering, did they fix the bugs with that? Did Zoom fix it, or is there some way still to go around it?
Well, it wasn't a bug. It was just the way Zoom was designed to operate. Zoom is designed to be easy to use and reliable. But that left some security vulnerabilities open if the host, if the person hosting the meeting was not real familiar with Zoom. And of course, there was a lot of that early on with this crisis. People were, going to Zoom who had never used it before.
My understanding was it was because it was defaulted for anyone to access, right? And then they did a patch so that it's not defaulted for anyone to access. Is that correct?
Well, it just depends on how you set up the meeting.
Mm.
And I'll talk about that. And indeed, we have an entire session on Zoom security that is recorded and that you can watch. And I have a more focused tutorial. It's about 5 or 6 minutes that goes through the things you can do if somebody does start trying to disrupt one of your meetings.
Thank you.
And
are you going to email that to us?
We'll deal with that in a minute.
Okay, I have a question. It seems
Kathleen.
Silly. You put people in their groups. You've done your thing. They put people in their group. Where do they go? I mean, are they still on your screen? Are they in their own little?
They will vanish if you as the host.
Yes.
And you as host will be in the main room.
Okay.
Main meeting room.
Yes.
When I open all rooms, you all are all going to vanish for me.
Okay.
But what you will see, especially if you're in, it's easier to see this if you go to gallery view.
Oh, okay.
You've got that little button in the upper right-hand corner where you can see the Hollywood Squares view with everybody. What's happening here will be more apparent if you go into gallery view before I send you to the breakout rooms.
Okay, so you go to gallery.
Yeah, what will happen, what you will see is suddenly the number of people in gallery view that you can see will suddenly drop by a bunch. And instead of seeing everyone, you'll see about 4 or 5 people. And that's your little breakout group.
Okay.
And before I do that, let me describe what you can do. You can do anything pretty much you can do in the main room. You can talk to one another. You can share screens.
They can share
chat. No, you can share screens.
Oh, okay.
Indeed, I have screen sharing enabled right now for all participants. Anybody, if somebody has a question that requires them to show me their computer screen, they can do that. I have to stop my screen share first. And that's a security option in Zoom that you can set up as the host.
Okay.
That makes it impossible for someone else to share their screen while you're sharing yours.
So they go away. Okay.
That's definitely the way you want to keep that set. You don't want somebody blowing your screen share away accidentally or on purpose.
Okay.
But yeah, you can share screens with one another. You can talk, you can chat, and all that stuff, but just within your breakout room for them.
So they have those options. They have those options to share and talk and whatever. And then they come back.
and then they come back and you talk about it.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to try that.
Oh, great.
I have 6 breakout rooms set here, so I'm going to vanish, and then I'll join each of your breakout rooms in turn. So give me a few minutes to work through everybody, and then I'll close the rooms, and we'll go back and we'll talk about the experience. Okay? All righty, here we go. Opening the rooms. Okay, there are a few of you I see here. I'm still in the main room, and you are too. And what happened there was that you must have joined after I set up the breakout rooms. So you didn't get sent to a room. But I can put you, I think, that's an interesting prospect. And of course, you can use the main room as one of your breakout rooms as well. But yeah, here you are. I see there's at least a couple of people who are not assigned, so I'm going to assign you. Okay. And I don't know why there are a few people who I can't send to a breakout room. Interesting. All right. Well, let me start working through the breakout rooms now.
Coming on. Hi, Dave.
Hey there. Okay, this is breakout group 1.
All right.
Yeah.
I just joined as the host, and I'm getting my Kindle over here. Some of you may have seen me on the Kindle as well. I've got my Kindle in the meeting to so I can see what's going on when I'm sharing things and so on, to make sure that I know what you're seeing. That's a useful technique in Zoom as well. So we can talk. I can encourage you and give a little guidance and just generally talk. I can share my screen with you and things like that, and we can get anything done. And then I can leave this room and go on to the next one, which I'm going to do real quick. So y'all have fun for a minute. I'll see you back.
How do we look on your screen? Do you see us in groups of 6 or 5 or whatever? Do you see?
I have you in gallery view on my screen, so I see all of you.
So not in our groups. Not in our groups.
I just see this group.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay,
got it. If I join this breakout room, I just see this group.
Okay, so you can't see all the groups at once.
I cannot.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Okay, forgive me. I'll be back. I'll see you back as soon as I get through each of the groups. I'll close them and we'll be back in the main room.
Great.
All right. Meantime, enjoy.
I put it on YouTube, which was interesting. As a review for my students, I made a PowerPoint of all the movies we saw. So we start with the 30s, but instead of seeing Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, we see Young Frankenstein. Then
Hi, breakout room 2.
Oh, hey.
Hey there.
Thank you, Dave.
We were just talking about the movies I showed.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
And,
yeah, that's the idea. You all get to have a little conversation. You can share screens with each other. You can work on stuff, share documents or whatever. through Google Docs or something, or whatever, anything you normally do on your computer, and share those screens with your colleagues. And as a host in a meeting, you can move from room to room and encourage people, talk to them, answer questions, things like that, and move along. Yes, Elizabeth.
So yes, I missed why you said you would want to recreate a Zoom breakout room. Why would you put
if I decided I didn't, like what did happen here, I had some people join after I set up the memberships in there, and some people got left behind in the main room. So that's one reason you might want to do it, is, or you just may decide that you have not set up enough rooms or too many or whatever, and it just allows you a chance to do over, to recreate.
If people are left behind in the main room, can't they automatically be their own Zoom breakout room?
Well, no, they stay in the main room, and you can use the main room like a breakout room because everybody else has gone somewhere else. But and you can also, in most cases, you can assign people who are left behind in the main room to one of the breakout rooms.
If Tommy doesn't like Sally, and Tommy says, I don't want to work with Sally.
Right.
Can you change that later?
You can always move someone from one room to another by just mousing, as the host, you can do that.
Yeah.
By just mousing over their name, and you'll get a button that allows you to move them to another room.
Oh, okay.
If you feel they'd be more motivated in another environment.
Dave, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you are in shared screen and then you open breakout rooms, can each individual room see the document that you have in shared screen?
No, I can only share my screen with the room that I'm in.
Okay.
So when I go to another room, any screen sharing I might have been doing is canceled.
Okay, thank you.
And then I have to start it again, and I could share my screen with you all right now, but the rest of the groups wouldn't see it.
Wait, Dave, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I caught that. So I was under the impression in the beginning that I could screen share something to all the breakout rooms. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, you cannot do that.
You can
screen share to one room.
You can share in one room, but not to all of them.
Ah.
And indeed, the people in the other rooms can't hear me talking right now.
Right. That makes sense.
There is a cross-room communication or an all-room communication option, though. You can send a text message.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I've used that before, where it says
you can send a text message to everybody.
And I've done
that. Demonstrate that.
I will just before I close the rooms. I'll send a message to everyone saying I'm about to close the rooms.
Oh, okay.
Now, Dave, today I had to type a little thingy that said, "Yes, I want to join." I didn't automatically come in there. I had
That's
to.
Right. That's right. You have the option to refuse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dave, can I ask you a silly question just really quick? I'm sure. Is that okay, Dave?
I tell you what, I'd like to share it with everybody, and I need to get to the other rooms. This is only the second one I've been to, and I don't want to keep people there too long, but I'll take questions when I get back, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I'm moving on.
Okay, bye.
Hey, breakout room 3. Y'all been having fun, I hope?
It's been interesting. Yes, very good.
We've been learning about each other.
And it does really work. There, from time to time, there have been some glitches. Like if a student internet connection glitches or something, they can just get lost and you don't see them again until you get back to the main room and things like that. But usually it works quite well. And we talk, you can share screens, I can share my screen with you. But if I share my screen right now, only you will see it. It's with, we're in a little isolated group here. The only universal communication option with breakout rooms is that the host has a the ability to send a text message to, like a chat message, but different, to all rooms simultaneously. And that's an option you have at the bottom of your the host's breakout room menu, like right here. It says broadcast message to all. And I'll use that in a minute. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. That's not helpful. Sorry. Okay, now you should be seeing my screen, I think. Yep.
Yes.
And if I bring up the breakout rooms box, I have a box at the bottom that says broadcast a message to all. I'll demonstrate that just before I crash the rooms and send you back to the main room.
Okay.
But I'm halfway through now. So I'm gonna leave breakout room 3 and go to breakout room 4, and I'll see you all back in the main room in a couple
I
of
got a
minutes.
question first,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
When I have the group breakouts in my face-to-face class last year,
Right.
I noticed that the students were just chatting away before I came in.
Yes.
And when I came to their group, they stopped talking. And I noticed that just now with you. How can you go to a group or a breakout room and not let them know you're there so you can hear what they're chatting about?
You can't really do that, I don't think.
Shucks. Okay.
They're going to, just like in the classroom, they're going to see you coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'll see you all in a minute.
Okay.
Just get out.
Hi, breakout room 4.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello there. Looks like I've lost one of you already. Just cycling through here in order by the random order that Zoom assigned you. Of course, as you've been seeing, it's like having your own little Zoom meeting. You can talk to one another. You can see one another if everybody has their webcams on, especially if you go to gallery view. Gallery view is really useful in breakout rooms where you can see everybody at the same time. And you can share screens with one another. I can share my screen with you. But if I share my screen with you, only you see it. Your shared screens are only seen within this breakout room. It's like a separate little Zoom meeting. As a host, you do have, if I share my screen with you for a second, you do have the option, if you go to your breakout rooms tool, while you're in a breakout room, you have an option as the host to broadcast a message, a text message to everyone. And I'll do that when I get ready to send everybody back to the main room, just to show you what it looks like.
Okay.
And then, of course, I also have this close all rooms button, which will give you 10 seconds, and then we'll all be back together in the main room. And I'll see you shortly. Okay, I'm going to 5 now.
On technology.
Right. And then all of a sudden you were
breakout room 5.
Hi.
Hey, hi.
Oh, y'all just having fun. That's the idea. It's a neat capability to just separate everybody out and let them have a smaller group discussion. You can share screens with one another, and those only appear to the members of your breakout room. So it's
nice.
really isolated little
okay.
I can, of course, as a host, you can join any room. I'm just walking around the virtual room in turn. And you all just happened to end up in breakout room 5. So it took me a minute to get here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If I share
Dave,
my screen with you briefly.
Dave, are you gonna put this meeting on your sdcc.olvid.org?
Yes, certainly
Thank
will.
you.
And I'm not, I certainly will.
Thank you.
If I'm sharing my screen with you for a moment, it's not real obvious until I pop the breakout rooms button. The only way a host can communicate across breakout rooms is to broadcast a text message. And you can send that to everybody. and you just type a message and hit broadcast. And
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do that here in a minute when I'm just about ready to put everybody back in the main room by using this close all rooms button here. But you can see here, I have opposite each breakout room, I have a join link, and that's how I'm moving from room to room. And I got to go now to room 6 is the only one I haven't been in. So I'll talk to them for a minute, and then I'll bring everybody back to the main room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is just working great.
Perfect.
Love it. See you in a minute.
Okay.
Step by step.
Hey, breakout room 6.
Hey, you got to us.
Sorry, it took me a minute. I've been walking around the virtual room trying to get answering questions and so on. It's nice to see you all. I'm sorry Zoom put you at the end of the at the end of the list.
It's okay. We were smaller group.
Yeah. And,
But quality.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
quality and quantity every time. So, you see how this works. It really, you get down to that smaller group, so people are more likely to communicate effectively. They can work on projects together. They can share their screens with one another, and only the people in your breakout room see your shared screen.
Yeah, this is great.
Or
great.
hear what's going on. Yes.
Because I wasn't sure, because I teach math and large group. We've kind of made it through the semester, but then I really wanted them to get into smaller group and have a small discussion, and me able to, go pop in and visit them. So this is a great practice. I really like it.
I do. It is fun to play with, for sure. Especially when you have this is just about an ideal size group overall.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 20 some people in the meeting overall, and that's an ideal size, but anything between about 20 and 40 works pretty well.
And Dave,
Yes.
but I thought of that, I didn't do this, but because I was just thrown into this and I started Zoom meetings with my students just because they're learning how to speak, so I have to be able to speak to them.
Of course.
So, but my friend said, one of the teacher friends said, why don't you, put like 6 of us in a Zoom meeting and practice with the breakout. My aides said that, practice doing the breakout sessions first, because it's nerve-wracking when you're in the meeting. It's like, oh my God.
You don't want to have to learn something new while you're in the middle of a meeting with students.
Which is what I did.
Well, sometimes you don't have a choice. But my advice has always been, when you start using Zoom, the first time you run a Zoom meeting, don't plan on accomplishing anything except getting everyone acclimated to Zoom. Don't try to do any teaching or any, content, presenting any content or anything like that. Just let everybody play for a bit. And everybody's much, much more comfortable the second time. And you are too.
Yes.
And practice with your friends, with your family. Hopefully the two there's at least some overlap between those two circles. And
maybe not,
but it's a wonderful thing. That's why these Confer Zoom accounts don't cost the state any more if you use them more. So use them with your family and friends just to get more familiar and more comfortable with Zoom, and the state will benefit from that.
The students were so sweet. They were nice. Teacher.
It's surprising how well students adapt to this, I've found generally. They're usually more adaptable to it than we are. I just shared my screen with you just to show you what you see as a host when breakout rooms are active. You get this in progress box here, and you can see who's in each room, and you can move from room to room by using the join links here. That's what I've been doing. And you can also the only across room communication you can do, or multi-room communication you can do, is to broadcast a message to everyone. It's a text message. You just click that and you type a message. And I'm going to do that in just a second.
Okay.
I'm going to leave here and then broadcast to everyone saying, okay, we're going to go back to the main room now.
Dave, do they see that in the chat room? Where does that
No,
message?
it just pops up. It just pops up on the screen.
Oh, all right.
You'll see it in just a second.
All right.
All righty. So I'm going to, I'm sorry?
We were playing with the chat function. If
Yes.
we're in our rooms, are we only chatting with each other, or are we broadcasting
Yes.
it to everybody?
Yeah. No, you're just chatting with each other.
But if it says everyone, Dave, then
Everyone in the breakout room.
No, when I wrote something, it went to everyone. Or I could pick Helen or
Yes,
Rusty.
you can always pick to whom.
Okay.
I was under the impression that it only happened within the breakout room, but I could be wrong because I haven't used this. Probably there are many people on this call who've used breakout rooms more than I have. So
Yeah,
I'll look
because
into that.
Helen and I tried it. So when in our chat box, when it said everyone, it brought up all of the participants' chat.
Well, but I'm doing it right now, as you can see, as myself. And if I go to everyone, and if I go here, I'm only seeing you all.
But it says everyone too.
Right, but it means, I think it means everyone in this room.
No.
I could be wrong.
Because Helen and I sent a message. You'll see when you go back in the chat.
Okay, that I just learned something about that then. Because given that I was only seeing you all here, I thought that's the only way I could do that. But
we have to choose. Like I had to choose Helen, and then I chose Rusty and sent them each a message.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you can do that. But if you go to everyone, I think it's only going to appear to Helen and Rusty and me. But I may be wrong. So we'll check that. But I do need to get back and get us back in the main meeting, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So I'll see you all in just a second, back
Bye.
in the main meeting. By myself. So let's go to breakout rooms and broadcast a message. And here we are back in the main room. Welcome. I hope you all had fun talking to one another. Looked like you were when I came through each of you in turn. I trust you all got that broadcast message that I sent just a moment ago.
Darren had his mask just in case anybody, was contagious.
Well, I was a little nervous. I was a little nervous, so.
Close quarters in the breakout room.
Those computer viruses can be nasty.
Exactly, right, Dave?
It'd be nice if we could protect our computers that way.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think that can be a fun experience for people, and especially the first couple of times you do it, your students will probably have a ball, especially while you're not in the individual room with them. And you saw how I was able to virtually walk around and join each room in turn and communicate. So the process is, let me share my screen again. Process is pretty straightforward. The rooms remain in place, and I can use them again. So you can do this multiple times during a meeting. You can break everybody out, do something, bring them back together, talk about it, and then send everybody back to the rooms once again by just opening all the rooms multiple times. And you don't have to reassort everyone each time. So that's
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
Could you please tell them how to get out? Because the last time I used it yesterday or Wednesday, anyway, I chose end session and it knocked out the entire Zoom meeting. They all had to log back. We all had to log back in again.
Oh yeah.
So could you just go over that, please?
Yeah. When you as the host are moving between sessions, opposite each breakout room, you'll see a little join link.
Right.
To hop from room to room, but another way to get out as the host, to get out of and indeed as a participant, if that's been allowed, you can always leave the breakout room, but you don't want to select end or leave meeting. If you do that, you go out of the whole meeting. And if indeed, as the host, if you end the meeting, it's gone.
I did that because it was, I think my thing did update itself because I never saw that before. Because it seemed like my choices were stay in the room or end. And I'm like, well, I don't want to keep staying in the room. I want to go back.
There is a leave meeting, which I could only show to you.
That's the one I would want.
While I was in a breakout room, but yeah.
That's the one I want, leave meeting.
Yeah, so look for leave meeting down in the lower right-hand corner on a computer. I'm sorry, leave breakout room.
Oh, breakout.
But there's also a leave meeting and an end meeting option, and you don't want those. Otherwise, that'll close the entire meeting usually if you do that.
They all came back, but yeah.
And ask me how I know that. When I was practicing yesterday, I did just that. I accidentally hit the wrong button and had to start the whole thing all over again. So I don't feel lonely.
Yeah, I did that too. Yeah.
Hey, Dave, this is Marlene.
Yes, Marlene.
If I want to go back, we had our breakout session. We go back to the main room, we talk more, but I want to reassign, I want new groups.
Right.
Is that hard to do?
No, you've got I'm sharing my screen. That's what this recreate button here is for. Okay. That allows you to just start over. Okay. Make new breakout rooms and reassign people to them.
All right, thank you.
I've got a question also, Dave. Jim Trapasso.
Absolutely.
I teach a mandolin orchestra. Is there a way that I can save the breakout rooms from week to week? Because I plan to put different instrumental groups in each breakout.
Right. That's a good question. I know you can set up breakout rooms in advance of the session if you require meeting registration. But can you save them from week to week, meeting to meeting? I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I can see why that would be very handy. And that's a fascinating thing to do on Zoom, I might add too. Wow, that is so cool.
It would save a lot of time for me.
Yeah, but I mean, an orchestral rehearsal, as it were, it would be nice if you didn't have that Zoom delay.
Well, what I've been doing on that, previous to all of this happening, I had recorded the class each week, so I would be able to send the recordings home with the students to practice.
Oh, yes.
And so what I've been doing is playing their former recordings, and they play along with me, or I will sometimes have a lead person play their part while everybody else plays the part along with the one lead part.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Hey, I thought of James. I thought of a way you could do it pretty easy. You know how everybody has their name up here? Everybody's got their name up here. Mm-hmm. Well, if you had all of the certain groups put a asterisk by their name, then you know to just throw all the asterisks in one group, and you can just put an exclamation mark in the end of their name, and you could just throw those all in another group, and then you wouldn't have to think about it. You could just sort them that way pretty fast.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sort them by names then?
Yeah.
With different
Well, you know how we all have our name up here? See how we all have a name up here on the screen?
Yes.
So let's say I'm going to be a asterisk, and Dave's an asterisk, and Ken is an artist an asterisk. And then Claudia, Joyce, other people, they're going to be the ampersand ampersand. So all your, I don't know how you group your people, but you know, the people you want to be in the group, you just have them all put a little like percent sign by the name. And people who are in the other group, you have them all put the dollar sign. You know how they identify themselves on the screen? Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll experiment with that.
So that when they're on the screen here, it would just, you
Cool.
sort people by the little symbol. Yeah, I mean, good work.
Very good. Yeah, imagination is always desirable in these things. And Zoom has so much capability that sometimes the only thing limiting us is our imagination. But those are great tips. Okay, let's move on and talk about polling, which is kind of fun too. Again, polling has to be enabled in order for you to be able to do it. You'll know if it is because in your Zoom host menus, you'll see a little polls icon at the bottom. Just as there was a setting in your meeting settings on the Zoom website to allow you to use breakout rooms, there's one that allows you to use polls. Just go to your meeting settings and scroll down until you see that setting and turn it on, and then this little icon will appear in
Do
your.
we have the capability right now, or is that only if we're the leader of the?
If you're the host, right? You only need to do that if you're the host. As long as the host has polling capability, you can participate without having that setting in your account.
So we can't
if
see
you're
it
going
right
to use,
now.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, so we can't see it on our own interface right now.
You
because we're not
shouldn't
the
be
host.
able to, even if you have it enabled, you shouldn't be able to see it right now because you're not the host. You're
Right,
seeing
right.
a subset of those Zoom menus because you're an attendee, a participant.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
As the host, then you get the full set.
Gotcha.
And you're seeing, well, if I share my screen, you'll be seeing exactly what I see. Okay, and there's that little polling icon, little histogram icon. So to get started with polling, you just click that icon. And this is a poll I had set up earlier. You can set up polls before you start the meeting, before people arrive in the meeting. Indeed, you can set up polls when you schedule a meeting, if you're scheduling your meetings in advance. But we'll just try this one. And I'm going to unshare my screen because my shared windows would interfere with what you're supposed to be seeing. But a poll is basically just a question and a bunch of possible responses. And you have about, I think, 12, no, it's not that many. What is it? 10, maybe 10 possible responses you can put up there. And everybody will see the question and will have the option to answer. You can give them a certain amount of time, and then you as the host will see the results. So let me go ahead and launch polling here, but first I'm going to kill my screen share so that you don't see me, so that you'll be able to see the polling on your end. So I've stopped my screen share. Now I'm going to launch this poll. And if you'll just check the boxes for the things that you may have used. As you're doing that, I'm seeing the results start to appear here. I see that 6, 7 of you now have submitted, 8. so you can keep track of who is, how far along you are. Let me just share my screen just for a second. This may interfere with those of you who are still answering, but let me just show you what I'm seeing right now real quick. Here's what I've got so far. 18 out of 24 people have voted, 75%, and I'm seeing the results. Now let me kill my screen share and you can finish up. All right, you should be able to see your own responses now. Just, click something, doesn't matter. You can wait as long as you feel appropriate. You probably never get everybody to participate. But so far we're up to 19 people who have submitted. You have that little submit or send button at the bottom. And when I figure that I've waited as long as I need to, let me share my screen again so you see what I'm doing. I have this end polling button down here. I'm just going to end the poll. And I have the result, the option to relaunch and just try it again, or to share results. So I'm going to stop my screen share and then share the results, and then you will see the results that I'm getting. All right, all of you can now see the results of this poll. So everybody in this, no surprise, everybody in this meeting is using Zoom, or everybody who responded. And Canvas and a smartphone are big bets. It's interesting, YouTube, 95% of you are using YouTube. That's pretty cool. And a pretty good number are using Kahoot. Camtasia, that's pretty good. Given that Camtasia costs about 170 bucks, that's pretty cool. Nobody using Snagit. For the screencasters among you, I'll just tell you, the screencasting has been my favorite thing for a long time. I've been screencasting since the early 90s. I started off doing it with a VCR and a scan converter off of a IBM PC. And I've always been fascinated with screencasting tools. The one I use every day, and the one I use to record all of my screencasts almost, is Snagit. So it's something you might consider. It in real terms, it costs about the same amount as Screencast-O-Matic, which is a nominally free service, but if you want to get really good use out of it, you have to pay them 20 bucks a year.
What do you, I use Screencast-O-Matic. What do you think are why do you think Snagit's better, or why do you feel it is?
It depends on how many or how often you screencast. I make several a day when I'm working, because I'm always making little tutorials for faculty who have questions. It's the easiest way to answer questions, usually, about how to do something in Canvas or Zoom or whatever. I use Snagit because Snagit's workflow is a little bit more streamlined than Screencast-O-Matic. I save myself a minute or so, at least, every time I make a screencast by using Snagit instead of Screencast-O-Matic.
Why do you think nobody's using Snagit here?
Probably because it's viewed as, it's not as well known. Snagit was, and I don't want to get too deep into this because this is not our topic today, and this is something I love talking about. But Snagit is less well known because it started off life as a static screenshot tool. Originally, it was just used to make and edit static screenshots, but several years ago, they gave it screencasting capability as well. And it works very well with Camtasia, which is the other big screencasting tool from TechSmith.
So we can go and look. We can go and look for a Snagit class on YouTube or in the OLED.
Yes, and we have some Snagit tutorials on that. But I just go to techsmith.com, which are the people who make it, and they have many Snagit tutorials, and they're the people who produce it, so they're the gold standard. But Snagit will, as an educator, Snagit costs you $30 for a perpetual license. You can use that version of Snagit until the cows come home and never have to pay again. Where with Screencast-O-Matic, if you want to record screencasts of more than 15 minutes in length, you have to pay them $20 a year. So it turns out costing about the same amount of money in the long run. And Snagit is quicker. It's quicker to use.
I got the impression that, this is for Elizabeth, I got the impression that, and maybe I'm wrong about this, that we got an email from Monica for the CE people that we had that access to Snagit for free. Am I incorrect? Through the district?
Until June 30th.
Oh.
You can get a temporary access to Snagit, but at $29.95, if you try it, you can get a free trial that lasts, I think, 7 or 8 days or something like that. That's fully functional, and you'll know by the end of that time if you're going to use it or not. For that price, you know, it's hard to beat. You do have to ask for you do have to go to the education store on the TechSmith website. And if you have any questions about that, let me know, and I'll send you a little Snagit recording that will show you how to do that. Because Snagit is so efficient that it's easier for me when I'm answering a question like that in email to just go and make a little Snagit video and send the link than it is to type out an answer.
So you make a little video. I'm sorry. The screen casting is, I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have defined that. Screencasting is recording your computer screen with your voice.
And so you're taking a picture of yourself. You're making a video.
Not necessarily of myself, but of my computer screen. I am recording what I'm doing in Zoom right now.
Oh, okay.
Dave?
Zoom is recording everything we're doing.
Okay.
Dave?
Yes.
Hello? Does Snagit have annotation tools or, you know, like flashlight that focuses on certain features, or does that?
Yes, they have some like that, though Screencast-O-Matic's probably better with that.
Okay. And what about Screencastify? Is that just as good?
I don't have a lot of experience with that one. It's a less commonly used tool, but it works fine.
Okay.
I'd try, and most of them are free to try at least. If you're looking around, I'd try several and see which one fits your needs better. Snagit happens to fit mine better because I make a lot of short screencasts. And if I save a minute or two on each screencast, it adds up to quite a bit by the end of the day of saving. And Snagit runs constantly in the background, so I can start a screencast on Snagit much faster than I can start one on Screencast-O-Matic by some healthy fraction of a minute right there.
I noticed that Screencastify allows you to share your document and then has your picture somewhere on your screen as well.
Yes, and you can do that with Snagit and Screencast-O-Matic as well.
Okay.
Oh, no, I used to use Screencastify because it was it's integrated with Google. I think it's a Google product, and so you can have an extension in your Chrome. So it's just so easy, and it's a real baseline, simple program. But you used to be able to use it for 10 minutes free, which was perfect for explaining things to students, right? When they didn't understand something, just show them how to do it. And then it would automatically sync with your Google Drive, and you could share it with them. But they've brought down that time to 5 minutes, which is why I switched over to Screencast-O-Matic. But I still use Screencastify once in a while, but yeah, it's just too bad they shortened it. You have to pay for it now.
Each one of them has different limitations if you're using it for free, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of it, I just say, just more power to you if you're using screencasting to help your students. It really doesn't matter what tool you're using. As long as it works for you, it's so good for your students. But that's another story. That's another that's another session, and we got some more stuff to do with Zoom here. So let's move on if we may.
Yeah, Dave,
yes.
can I circle back a question just on the, when you did the breakout rooms, can multiple hosts, like if we have 2 instructors doing a class, for example, can multiple hosts go around? Okay.
Yes, and can go from room to room, yes.
And then I wanted to
you can have a co-host.
Perfect. I wanted to ask like an approach to, I could see doing some lectures in Zoom that I'd like to maybe keep for multiple use for long term.
Absolutely.
And then would you just, so basically Zoom would make a copy of that video and then you would convert that over to like a YouTube and then you would put the YouTube into Canvas for future use? Is that?
That's certainly one approach you can use, or you can record directly to the Zoom cloud. And it will go, the recording will go to Zoom's servers. It'll be captioned.
Okay.
And then you can provide your students with a link to it. That process is, and that's a discussion that we cover in detail in our intro to Zoom. But basically, both recording to the Zoom cloud and recording to the local computer and then putting it on YouTube both work fine. And there are some advantages to one over the other. It's more a matter of personal choice. But definitely, more importantly, you can record those Zoom sessions and have them available to your students indefinitely on demand. Typically, you would put a link to the session in your Canvas course, and the student would just click on it and be able to play the recording of this Zoom session, as you will be able to after we finish today.
And then nothing like polls and all that go away, and then I assume, right? They couldn't still poll, and you could collect that data at a later time or anything.
Yeah, they'll see everything that you saw during the meeting, except when you're doing breakout rooms. Only the main room is recorded normally.
Yeah. And then the polls, could that still be integrated where they could still participate in a poll? Like if you had questions throughout and they could still
they just see the results of the poll that happened live. They wouldn't be able to participate later while watching the recording.
Okay. Does Zoom charge you to back up on their cloud your videos?
I'm sorry now?
Does Zoom have a limit in how much it lets you back up on its cloud service?
Yes, it does.
You.
Yeah, it does. You can only have a gigabyte of storage. You only have a gigabyte of storage on the Zoom cloud, so you can exceed that.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad. Okay.
That's an hour-long Zoom meeting uses quite a bit of space. So you sooner or later you will run out of room on the Zoom cloud, and that's when being able to record to the local computer and then put it on YouTube becomes especially critical.
Gotcha.
I've also got a tutorial that will show you how to pull a recording off of the Zoom cloud and put it on YouTube. If you need to do that because you're running out of space, you can move them from one to the other, from the Zoom cloud to YouTube. And I'll be happy to show you how to do that later, or show you where the tutorial is once we get through with this session. But we better move on. You can, so the poll is fairly simple to use. I can relaunch, clear existing results, and end polling, and close this. And let me pull up polling again. You can make new polls whenever you like.
And you create these in the settings? You create the question in the settings?
No, what I just did, and you haven't seen it yet because I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that. I thought I was. It's hard to keep track of whether this is real or Memorex sometimes. Okay, now you see my, what I see when I first click on the polling icon. You can edit if you're polling with that button right there. And what you see is this. a web browser pops up. Let me get this out of the way. And bring that back. There we go.
Okay.
And I can add a poll, make a new poll. I type my question here up to 255 characters. You can't be too verbose. You can set the poll up so that people either have to choose one option or can choose multiples. Obviously, on that last poll, I had it set for multiple options. But you can force them to choose just one. And you type your possible answers here. You have to type at least 2. You can have up to 10. And you can have multiple questions within a poll. You can add a new question and flip between one, go from one to the other as you present the polls. Or you can delete a particular question and then save all that, and you'll have all that available to you when you start, later in the meeting. Or you can create it while people are watching. I don't think this is necessary at this point. You can see how simple this process is.
Dave, how did you get to this window in the first place?
That's a good question. I got to this window in the first place by clicking on not breakout rooms, clicking on polls. There we go. And I am sharing my screen and going to the edit option here in the upper right-hand corner. If you haven't created a poll yet, you'll have a button to create one. But I have, so. And now that pops up in a web browser window, another window. And then you have the option to set up your poll. You can also give people the option to be anonymous. When you saw that aggregate data, it was anonymous anyway. But the identity of the people who and their responses is stored in the background. If you don't want that to happen, you can make the poll anonymous, and all you see is aggregate data. There's no way to find out who answered what.
Dave, can you type anything in there so we can see the process?
Sure. Like, how many times a week do you use Zoom?
Or day. How many times a day?
There you go. Like once or twice.
Twig.
5 to 10.
Okay.
10 to 15, and so on. And this would be a single you probably have a single choice, and then you would save that.
And you have to title it. You have to title it, right?
You do have to title it.
So when do you set up a poll?
You can set it up before your attendees join. Well, you can set it up when you schedule the meeting, or you can set it up, you can start the meeting early and set it up before your attendees arrive. Or you can set it, if you suddenly decide to use a poll and hadn't thought of it before, you can set it up while the meeting's going, just as I'm doing here.
Okay, you can't do it a day ahead of time and save it.
Yes, you can. If you schedule the meeting ahead of time, you can set up the polls ahead of time.
But we don't have that. We have a regular meeting room. So we don't do.
Oh, you do. Everybody has the option to schedule a meeting in advance.
Oh.
You can do it from here, from the Zoom website. And you can even pre-assign people to breakout rooms. Or you can schedule it from the Confer Zoom app in Canvas as well. So yes, you can set up your polls in advance. And there is a polling. Let me see, I've got it here somewhere. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Zoom has a polling help page, including a video tutorial and a text tutorial that will show you how to enable polling, how to create one, either in advance or during the meeting. And it'll show you everything that I've just been through. And let me put that in the chat tool, if I can find that. Oh my gosh, gotta get back here and pull up chat. There it is. All righty, and that's in the chat tool. Remember, you can save that chat tool, the chat log at any time by clicking down here where it says More and selecting Save Chat. I love being able to show that now. And Pamela, you're absolutely right. You cannot use polling from a Chromebook, unfortunately.
I found that out after I set it up for all my 7 grade
Oh
schools.
gosh,
But,
yeah.
yeah, well, that's okay.
Yeah, that's in that.
I got a laptop later. I'm okay now.
Bless your heart. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But you can save this chat log at any time, and it will go to a, if I bring up Windows Explorer here, it will go to a folder called Zoom in your default documents folder. Right here. And I've got a bunch of those, obviously. If I get all the way to the bottom, here's today's meeting, 5/29, 2020. Started just before 10 a.m. this morning. If I open that up, here's my chat log. Oh, it's great to be able to show that to you instead of just have to talk about it. So you can always keep those links that I put in there, and that will give you some more detail on polling. But right now we need, I want to preserve a little bit of time to move on and talk about the thing that I usually get the most questions about in Zoom meetings, which is, how'd you get that background behind you? How do you do virtual backgrounds in Zoom? Those are fun. I am still sharing my screen, all right, so I can show you this. Let me pull up my outline here and make sure I am not forgetting something else. It has been known to happen. There's my, okay, now that all looks good. Okay, first thing you have to be able to do in order to use a virtual background is to enable that option in your Zoom settings. Just as we saw that there were settings that you had to enable for breakout rooms and for polling, there's one for virtual backgrounds as well. You go to your Zoom account management screens at zoom.us, log in with your Confer Zoom account credentials, and go to, let me go to the top of the screen again, go to in the menu on the left, go to settings. And this is a meeting setting. So let me just search for background. Probably help if I spelled it right. That's why it was fussing at me there. Virtual background. That's well down the page, as you can see from over here on the right. But this has to be turned on. And I'm not sure whether it's anymore, whether it's turned on by default in the Confer Zoom apps or not. It was originally, but if you don't see what I'm about to talk about in your Zoom menus, when you're hosting your own meetings, go and check and make sure this is turned on. Okie dokie. The first thing you have to think about when you're planning on replacing whatever's behind you with a more attractive or a different background is the nature of what's behind you. It works best with a green screen, and that's what I'm using right now. If I go to virtual background and turn off my virtual background settings, this is what I'm actually sitting in front of. That's the gold standard. It works better that way. And it requires less processing from your computer's CPU to do it. So some computers, I'm sorry?
Where is that virtual background settings that you went to?
I'll show you that in a second. I just wanted to show you that I'm sitting in front of a green screen. But that's the gold standard. You can get green screens fairly cheaply on Amazon. You can get a green drape, a piece of green cloth that you can hang over a door or any kind of tall object, a coat rack or a couple of coat racks or something like that, and hang it behind you. Some lighting helps. I'm sitting in front of a nice big window that's lighting this naturally, and I have a couple of photography lights illuminating it as well. That whole light setup only costs, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks, I think, something like that. They're pretty cheap, but they work. They haven't fallen apart yet anyway. I haven't moved them around much. But you can get away with just hanging it over a door and sitting in front of it. And usually that'll work better than not having a green screen. On the other hand, if your background looks a little more like this, let me switch cameras here. You can switch cameras in Zoom, by the way. You can have multiple cameras attached, webcams attached to your computer, and switch between them using this Zoom video menu here, just to the right of the little camera icon. And let me switch to another camera. And there you're seeing me from the side. Here I am. And this is actually, the camera I'm using is actually my, let me switch back to my primary camera and show you what I'm using. I'm using my iPhone.
Oh, okay.
Android phones work as well as a webcam. More on how to do that in a minute. Okay, so that background is a good deal less uniform, and you'll notice it's, even though I have a, well, watch what happens when well, anyway, that background is less than ideal. There's objects, different brightness, different colors. It's gonna work better for you if your background is as featureless as possible, like a blank wall is ideal. And let me talk to you. I forget which camera I'm using here. And let me kill my screen share for a second. A nice beige wall works almost as well as a green screen. There's nothing really magic about the color green in this regard. It's just that green is a color that no one would be caught dead wearing except on St. Patrick's Day. Seriously, that's why they use that color of green for
Oh,
a background for chroma key. The chroma key is what the technique is called that we're using. Um, uh, because if you're wearing a shirt that color or anything approaching that color, you just vanish.
Oh.
You become a part of the background and you get overlaying. It can be a problem with actors when they do this in the movies who have green eyes. They get that spooky, no irises look that you occasionally see in horror movies, but you don't want just everywhere. People actually have to wear colored contact lenses. They have green eyes and they're doing a green screen segment.
The Queen of England, excuse me, the Queen of England, did you see what they did to her dress? She wore a green dress to address the public.
And you could key things into that green background. Yeah. So yes, indeed, that was a neat little application of chroma key technique. A little bit beyond Zoom in most cases, but this is a technique, of course, that can require thousands of dollars of equipment to do. But Zoom manages to make it work with just a little software modification, which is pretty amazing how well it works. But it's not going to work as well with a background like that as it would if I had a green screen or a relatively featureless wall that didn't have a lot of different colors in it. And I'll show you the difference here in a minute when I show you how to actually initiate it. Let me go back to sharing my screen again, so you can see what I'm doing. To set up a or to activate a virtual background, and let me go back to my primary camera here so I can talk to you and look at the screen at the same time. It makes a difference whether you're meeting your viewer's eyes or not. You always want to remember they're in that webcam. So you want that webcam placed somewhere where it's as close to your eye line when you're looking at the screen as possible. It makes a big difference in how people experience you. But in order to activate a virtual background, if you've activated that setting in your Zoom settings, you go to your little video icon here in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom menu. And this can only be done on a computer, a laptop or a desktop computer, a computer running Windows or Mac OS. And click the little menu button next to the camera, and there's an option to choose a virtual background. So that's the answer to that question a moment ago. You choose a virtual background, and this dialog box pops up. You see a preview image of yourself and what your attendees are going to see. And the default, of course, is to have no background. Your Zoom client will come with about 4 stock images, 3 stock images and a stock video. And you can have either still images as a background or a video, a pre-recorded video as a background. And Zoom provides you with 3 stock images, still images that you can use. I love that one. I can't imagine what it would cost to live in a domicile that had that view, but so you can enjoy it without having to pay for it this way. Or you can select a little video, like the Northern Lights. I now live far enough north that every now and then, once every several years, there's enough of a magnetic storm that I can see they say that you can see the Northern Lights from near where I live. I'm living for that. I just hope I make it. That's on my bucket list, to see that live someday. But so that's a little video that you can put behind you, just selecting the ones that came with the client. And I think this one came with it as well. Yeah, a little the waves and the
Oh,
palm
that's
tree
nice.
and so on. That's a nice one. Notice that I have had to tell the Zoom client that I have a green screen. And I get, as you're going to see, I get better results if I have that green screen behind me rather than just any old background. If I take that off, as I move around, you can see stuff, and I can, if I go backward, and so sometimes you see little tears in the key, and sometimes I'll even vanish. A piece of me will vanish and so on if I'm not careful. Still works, but without the green screen, the Zoom client, in order to make this work, puts a lot more of a strain on your computer's processor. So if your processor was already a little borderline for doing this, this can just kind of crash everything. So having a green screen really does work better. Also, having a good camera makes a difference. This camera I'm using, the primary web camera I'm using, is one that we like to recommend. It's a Logitech 920 series camera. Let me show you that one. I'm going to pull up a new, and let me get this out of the way. And go to Amazon. I don't have a lot of hope that that one is actually going to be available, but let's just do Logitech C920. Yeah, this is the one I'm using, the 920. You'll note that there's no option to order it right now. And then you get some of these knockoffs that I don't know. I trust Logitech. Anything from Logitech will work, but you notice all those are out of stock until you start getting to some really expensive ones. These are all knockoffs. They might work, they might not. And even they are quite expensive. So it can be difficult to find right now for obvious reasons, but this is the one that I'm using right now, and the resolution on it is excellent. It'll go up to full HD, 1080. There are models that will do 4K, though that uses a lot of bandwidth. You better have a good internet connection.
What does it cost?
Used to cost 60 or 70 bucks on Amazon. I've seen them listed for $200-$300 when you could find them recently.
Excuse me, so that will interface automatically with your Zoom once
yes,
you plug
they
it
should.
in?
You just
and
plug
all
them
the
in,
settings?
start up Zoom, and it should just work with Zoom, yes.
Dave, why do that rather than just using your camera in your computer?
This one's better than any computer. Well, I'll take that back. If you have a Mac, the cameras built into the iMacs and the MacBooks are pretty darn good. They're not as good as this one, but they're pretty darn good. Probably good enough for any reasonable application. The cameras built into Windows laptops, whole lot more variable. They may be very good, they may not. You just have to try it and see.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use this one with a laptop as well. You can plug it in and use it instead of the camera in your laptop if your laptop camera is not giving you the results you want. But you just have to try and see, because there's so many variables. How good is your background? Do you have a green screen? How good is your lighting? And so on. So you never know how well it's going to work until you just try it. And there's certainly no reason not to try it. But having a decent webcam does make it work better. And that's one I'd recommend if you can find it. But right now it's tough. In lieu of that, you can do things like I showed you a moment ago. Let me take this, let me kill the background for a second. It'll be easier to see. Oh, there it is. I had it up already. Let me go to none and now move my primary webcam around and show you. You can also use your smartphone camera, which is a pretty darn good camera in itself. The requirements for and use that as a webcam instead of a webcam like the one I just showed you. That one requires that to do it most efficiently requires that your desktop or laptop computer and your smartphone be on the same wireless network, because they communicate through the wireless network. Using one of a variety of apps that you load on the phone and on the computer. I'm using one called Epoch Cam that seems to be the best one for the iPhone. But I'm told that the Android version of that one's not as good, and there are others that work better on the Android phones. But there are
tablet?
Pardon?
How about a tablet?
Or a tablet. You can do this with a tablet as well. Yes, like an iPad or an Android tablet.
Android,
Or an iPad. And so you can use the very good cameras built into those devices as a webcam. And it works quite well. If I switch to that camera, again, that's what I was using to talk to you before, the results are pretty darn good until I tried it. It's not quite so good, however, if I do a virtual background. Like that.
No.
Okay, I just, yeah, that's a little funky. Just doesn't work as well. It will work better if since that one's not facing a green screen, it will work better if I take off the I have a green screen. Now it's not too bad. But you do see parts of me vanish from time to time. Notice my chair is gone too. It's become part of the background. There it appears every now and then if I move it. So you get all kind of funky stuff going on if you don't have a green screen. If I move that around to where my other camera is, it works a lot better with the green screen than it does without it. But it does work, sort of, without the green screen. So try it and see.
Dave, if
Yes.
I were to use my I don't have an iPad, but I've got some kind of a tablet. If I were to, would I have to load that Epoch to it? I'm using 18.
Yes. Yeah. You'd have to load. Let me get the right camera up here. And I have aggravated Zoom. That other camera kind of ticked it off. There we go. Yes, you'd have to load the Epoch Cam app on the tablet or the smartphone.
Thank you.
And there's also a driver that you have to load onto the
tablet
computer.
Oh.
And reboot the computer. Ask me how I know that. If you don't reboot the computer after you load it, it doesn't work.
Okay.
But Epoch Cam, there's a free version. If you're going to use it regularly, you probably want the paid version, which I think is $8. And you can, on an iPhone or an iPad, it works quite well. I hear again that the Android version is not quite as good. But there are other options for the Android. If you're interested in
Samsung,
hearing about some of those, I'll be happy to look that up for you and send it to you if you want to email me about it.
Okay, I have a Samsung.
Yeah, a Samsung Galaxy Tab.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked great with that. You can find an app that will work great with that. And you can try Epoch Cam. There is a free version of Epoch Cam that's good enough for you to try to see if it'll work well with that or not.
Okay.
But again, your computer and your computer and your iPhone or your tablet or whatever have to be on the same wireless network, though some apps do have the option to connect the mobile device to the computer through a USB cable instead of wirelessly.
Oh yeah,
So
except I
you
don't think
can use it without a wireless network, without, or often enough your desktop computer, if you're trying to use it with this, may not be on your wireless. It may be attached directly to your router by a wire, and then this won't work unless you also connect the smartphone to your computer using a USB cable. So there can be a little bit of tinkering around to get it working, but once you tinker around with it, it works. As you saw, it works pretty well.
I wouldn't want it for the background. I would want to use it for when I'm doing demos, to have close-ups of my hands. That's what I want.
Exactly, and you can use that camera as a secondary camera.
Yeah.
And and switch to it at any time.
I know it doesn't have an Ethernet cable. I know it does not. It just has a headphone and a charger. Like a USB.
It wouldn't have an Ethernet. You just use the charger cable. The charger cable has a USB connector on the end of it. You just plug that into the computer, and in some apps will be able to work that way. Not all.
Okay.
And if you want to get into more details on that, I'll be happy to work with you.
Yeah, I'll email you. Thanks.
You bet. So, when we go to choose virtual background, we have those basic options that Zoom provides to you, but you can add your own. If you click on this little icon here, you can add either an image or a video that you can use as a background. And that's where most of these have come from that I have here. These are ones that I either took myself or found online and downloaded and put into Zoom by just clicking Add Image and then going to my Pictures folder and finding one that I wanted to use. How about Heroes Machine here? I just select the one I want to use, click Open. That adds that to, and that's not a real good choice apparently because it's too interfering. So I'll probably I can take that out and pick a different one. And you can just try. And again, I have ticked it off by doing that. So I can just stop and restart with a different one. No, I have changed some settings on my webcam inadvertently. Oh, well. Oh, I'm still using the Epoch cam. Let's go back to the primary camera. But there again, you're saying I've got to, so this can get a little ticky at times. Let's try eliminating and then starting that again and see if it picks up better. Yeah, that works. That usually works if things go south on you like that.
Dave, what's the mirror my video option?
Switches me from left to right.
Oh, okay.
It mirrors me left to right.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Let's see. So you can just load a still image in or a video. This will work with any MPEG-4 or MOV video. I can add a video. Like I've got one here of my stupid dog. I can select that and open it, and I can put that behind me. That's my little robot lawnmower. And that's my stupid dog chasing it. I deliberately muted the sound on that so that it wouldn't interfere. And it just plays over and over again. It's just a short loop. That's not ideal because there's too much going on in the background. It's distracting. Something like this, which is a background I downloaded for free off the web, which has just very subtle motion. It's harder to tell when that one restarts, when it loops.
Where do you look for that?
I found that on a site called Cover. And I have that up here somewhere. I was going to show you that. There we are. Let me pull that over and get this out of the way. Keep doing that. Yeah. There we are. coverr.co. .co is supposed to mean that this is a website in Colombia, but that top level domain has kind of been hijacked by people informally in lieu of .com, because .com domains are so hard to, so many of them have been reserved, it's hard to find the one you want. People are using that in lieu of .com now. .co is sometimes used to mean company instead of Colombia. Anyway, this site is not in Colombia. Yes.
Thank you.
So
this one?
Yeah, coverr.co, and they have free virtual backgrounds for Zoom, which you can get by just clicking here. And here are several of them. You can get one with the Golden Gate Bridge, but you actually get traffic moving. And if you watch it carefully, every now and then it restarts. But this one's so seamless that it's very hard to tell. So this is one of my favorites too. And you can just download it for free and import it into your Zoom virtual background client, as I showed you.
Is that hard to do, Dave, to import it?
Not at all. All I do is download it. I don't even really have to give them my email, though they make it look like you do. If you wait a second, it comes up anyway. So the Golden Gate traffic, I'll put that in my videos folder just so I can find it again.
Okay.
And save it. And then I just go to my Zoom client, go to choose virtual background, and add that one by clicking the add button here, add video, go to my videos list, and Golden Gate, there we go, Golden Gate traffic, and open that. And now I've got that one. That's all there is to it.
Thank you.
So you can be anywhere you like. And I can attest that that is an actual photo. That tower over here on the hills in Marin County, I spent many days looking at when I was there with my wife one time when she was in the hospital in San Francisco. That is the real deal. So it's you can just have a ball with this. You can even do some pretty instructionally useful stuff with it.
Yeah.
This can be just about any kind of background image. So what I did was I took a short PowerPoint presentation and saved the images of the slides, and I can put my PowerPoint presentation behind me.
Wow.
And I can get up. Always a good thing to get up once in a while. And get back over here. I'll get my chair out of the way. And I can present my PowerPoint presentation. I can be here. I can be a part of it.
Wow.
5 tips for listening well. Unfortunately, there's no real quick way to switch between them. Helps to have a friend or or maybe a remote mouse that you hold in your hand. And I can switch slides. And I can talk about, this is about listening. So I say, be prepared. And I'm looking at my computer screen. So it looks like I'm looking at you. And I can point to it. I can interact with this in real time. And remember, this could be a video too. You could be showing a video of a volcanic eruption.
Could
apparently
it be a
be
CD
standing.
you have?
Pardon?
It could be a CD you have. I could play them on a CD of my own images.
You'd have to rip the video off the DVD and get a file, an MPEG-4 or an MOV file to do that. And I can help you. That's easy to do. And for educational purposes, it's not even a prima facie copyright violation.
No, it's photos of my own artwork, so that's fine.
Oh, and you own the copyright, yes. So you can pull those things right off your CD. Indeed, and you could interact with your own.
Yeah, because I do anyway. I point to this, I point to that. Yeah.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Huh?
Yeah.
All with Zoom, just with Zoom. You don't have to buy, to do this live with an image, still image, or a video. The first time I had to buy a $1,300 tier piece of equipment. And Zoom manages to do this just for the price of basic price of admission. So again, you're limited only by your own imagination with this. You can do some pretty spectacular stuff with Zoom that will just blow your students away, especially the first time they see it.
Can you screencast that?
I'm sorry?
Can you screencast that?
I am. I'm doing that right now. I'm screencasting this. It's being, remember I started the recording.
Right.
And Zoom is recording all of this. So I will put this online, and by tomorrow, the next day, you'll be able to watch all of this again. Except that part where we did the playing in the breakout rooms, you won't see all of that. But everything else will be recorded. Yes.
Oh, sorry. So how would you, you said like a remote, like if you were standing up there, is there something you can buy on Amazon? The only thing is it would have to know what you're selecting, right? Because it's not like it's a PowerPoint from the actual program.
Right.
Just,
you'd have to be able, you'd have to have, I have this up on another screen, and I was selecting them from there. So doing something like that requires a little bit more.
Yeah. Well,
a little bit more
live,
preparation.
Yeah.
But it works. You can select a new slide and then close this. And now you're seeing just me in the slide.
Yeah.
And then you can open it back up again and switch to the next slide. It's not as seamless as you would like it to be. But you can actually do all of that. You can buy mice that are can be used off of a surface just by gesture. As you rotate it around and so on, you can move your cursor around. They used to be fairly expensive, but you can control things like that without being at the computer.
What's the name of that mouse if I wanted to search for it?
I will, I would have to send you that. If you'll send me an email, I will send you the information, because I'm not sure what the current is. The one I bought 10 years ago, so I'm not sure what's available currently, but I'll look it up for you.
Okay, thank you.
I know they're still available.
Yeah.
They have little gyroscopes in them and motion sensors, and you can move the cursor around on the screen by just moving the mouse around in the air.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm just curious what they're called, but I know you don't know the current name.
I'll send you that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I honestly don't remember.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Dave, if you have my email, can you make sure you send me one too? Send a copy.
Well, I tell you what, so I don't forget, please send me an email and I will answer it.
Thank you.
And I will send it to you. And let me put my email in there. We're winding down now, obviously.
I have it.
Just in case anybody needs it, I'll put it in there.
Joyce, I missed what is it he's sending?
He's sending
it was a question. I just put my email in the chat tool so you can ask me questions later. And I love to hear those. I love to get those. And
no, Nat, it's oh, sorry.
The question was about a so-called air mouse.
Air mouse.
A mouse that you can use without having it sitting on a surface.
Thank you.
That you can use with gestures in midair. So I will get that information to anybody who wants it. Just send me an email. And I will say it was over $100. I remember that. It was a fairly expensive piece of equipment. But this is just an example, and you can probably think of things I've never thought of to do with virtual backgrounds like this. I'd love to hear if you come up with some neat ideas yourself. I'm always looking for new ones. All righty, let's make sure I've done everything I intended to. Yep, video loops, that was it. And I'll just mention one last thing, though there's nothing really much to show you. But if you have a fully validated YouTube or Facebook account, you can, under this More button down here in the lower right, yeah, I'm still sharing my screen. There's a More menu in your Zoom menus, and you can stream this live, stream a Zoom meeting live to Facebook or YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Dave, where's that button?
Oh, it's right here in the lower right-hand corner of the Zoom menu. And you just go live on YouTube. I don't use Facebook, so I'm using YouTube. And you get this little screen. You have to, your YouTube account has to be verified. They have to know you're not a robot. And you can set the privacy on this stream to public, unlisted, or private, just like you can with YouTube videos, if you don't want the whole world to know it's out there. And then you just go live. And there will be a URL, a web link that you can give to people, and they can attend the meeting. They can watch and listen to the meeting. They can't participate like you all are. They can't talk back. They can't get to the chat tool. But it's a broadcast, not a two-way dialogue like we have in Zoom.
Excuse me?
It means that it means effectively an unlimited number of people can view your Zoom meeting. Yes.
That's how you enable us to watch these Zoom meetings again, correct?
No. What I'm doing right now is recording this Zoom meeting to my local computer. And when I end the meeting, the video will be rendered, boiled down into a format that will stream across the internet. And it'll be stored on my local hard drive. And from there, I can upload it to YouTube manually. And then you can view it at any time at your own convenience. You'll find that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You could just go to record on YouTube and not have to go through that practice.
Not so much. Yeah. Well, no, not so much. If you want to record a Zoom recording, you're pretty much either going to have to record it to the local computer or to the Zoom cloud. You could use a screencasting tool like Snagit or Screencast-O-Matic, but it gets kind of awkward sometimes.
So in what occasion would we use, I'm sorry, in what occasion would we use what you just showed us?
The live, if you had a live meeting that you wanted more people to attend than could fit into your Zoom meeting, in other words, more than 300 people, you'd be surprised the number of folks who have run into that limit, who are using their Zoom accounts for statewide meetings and things like that. That question's come up a number of times. And probably 2 or 3 months ago, Zoom added that capability to the Zoom client, and you can stream live to YouTube or to Facebook. And it seems to work fine. And then you get an unlimited number of attendees. And indeed, you might reach a broader audience because people can search for it. But it doesn't record it to YouTube. It doesn't automatically. I don't think there's any option. I don't see any option here to record to YouTube, if you note. If I go live, that's all it takes. This meeting is now streaming live on YouTube, or will be momentarily. But there's no option to record, or will be momentarily. And that's the live stream. And there's a share URL for it right there that you can share with people on the fly. It's not something that you're going to need to do every day, but it may come in handy. Okay, that's everything I had. I had a number of questions about how to find this recording later, so let me deal with that. Let me get my Zoom windows out of the way here. That will be found. I thought I brought that up here. Yeah, there we go. Oops, looks like I got logged out of something here. I don't need to log in. You can just go to sdccdolvid.org, which is our open on-demand website at Online Learning Pathways. Let me put that in the chat tool. Just copy that to the chat tool. Right. DCCD. It's in the chat tool. In the top menu bar here, there's an option for workshop archives. If you click on that, all of our Zoom recordings of all of the things we've recorded since like 2016 will appear, with the most recent ones first. There's one from the 22nd. I've got one more and this one yet to put up. I'll try to get that up over the weekend for sure. And you can watch their full-length recordings. They show they have all the dialogue, all of the shared screens show up, all the audio, both participant and host audio and so on, all there. It's basically like watching it, like being there, except that you can't ask questions in real time. You have to email me if you have a question about it, which is fine. These are full-length recordings. We're at, 12:19 right now. We're at 2 hours and 19 minutes into this one. The world's record on one of these in the last couple of months was 5.25 hours. I won't tell you which one that was. I'm surprised when people tell me they've watched the whole thing, but people do. And you can, of course, you can fast forward through it and watch just the parts that you need. Or assessment. You can grab the little scrubber button on YouTube and drag through it. Oh, and you can full screen these two so that you can see webcam here that I can use. And then you can sort of see what's going on in behind it. And you can get to where it is, define screencasting. Well, I don't have a submission to that. So those are available to you 24/7. Let me go to, that was bad planning, sorry. And you can find, as I say, stuff going back to 2016 on this site, just by going to Workshop Archives. So that's where this will be found. As to the questions of how do you do that, I search for Zoom recording in the search box. Here's how to record a Zoom session. Here's how, this one's more recent. You see, that's 2015. This one's this year. Recording to your local computer in Zoom and loading the recording onto YouTube. That will show you how I'm going to put this online shortly. This one will show you if you run out of space in your Zoom cloud. This one will show you how to move those Zoom cloud recordings to YouTube, so you don't have to lose, your students don't have to lose access to them. Because even some of these old ones, like from 2016, will still showing activity. So it's useful to have this up there indefinitely. And with you, when you put it on YouTube, it can stay there as long as there's a Google. It'll be there. And if Google goes away, I got a feeling we've probably all gone long before Google went away. So we're probably not going to have to worry about that. Anyway, that's how to find those recordings and how to manage them. And if you have any other questions about that, please contact me. Do you indeed, this is the point where I ask, do you have any other questions? And I'll take questions on anything at this point.
Dave, we had one quick question. We were in our breakout room, and one of the people who had to leave early, she was trying to update to the new Zoom, update the Zoom. And she went to zoom.us, and then she went into the picture in the corner, and she said all it showed was log out. So is there an intermediary step once we get to zoom.us? I know we log in.
When you run a Zoom session or attend a Zoom session for the first time, Zoom automatically downloads and installs a local client onto your computer. And this is true for computers. If you're on a mobile device, you have to load the client yourself manually. But on a computer, Zoom loads it for you. And you can start that Zoom client manually from your computer. And I am still sharing my screen, So on a Windows machine, I just go to the Start button or go to the search box here and just type Zoom. And an app will pop up that says Start Zoom. Or a link to an app will pop up. You just click that, and this is what pops up. It looks a little different from this if you're not in a meeting, because normally there would be a button here that said Start Meeting, and another one that said Schedule a Meeting, and then a couple of other buttons. But since I'm in a meeting, it looks a little different, but it's easy to interpret. But to update this client, you go in the client window, not on the website, but in the client window, you go to the little picture of yourself or the little silhouette if you haven't uploaded a profile image. This little red icon here warns me that, hey, you're in a meeting. Be careful what you do. You don't want to saw the limb off while you're standing on it. But so I wouldn't do this while I was in a meeting, but there's an option to check for updates. And I just updated mine before I started this morning, so I'm up to date. But if there's an update available, it will tell you, and it will give you an option to install it.
Yeah, she wasn't getting that drop-down menu.
Yeah, she probably wasn't doing the using in the Zoom client itself. Okay. She was probably on the Zoom website. And to update the client, you have to go here. Now, periodically, Zoom will force an update on the client, and that happens automatically. When you try to start a Zoom meeting, it says, we're going to update your Zoom client before you can start your meeting. And you have to wait for it, which is inconvenient. But eventually, and on May 30th, they'll start doing that and updating again. So eventually everybody will get updated, whether they do it manually or not. But that's how you can force a manual update and get the newest and greatest features and so on, and maybe eliminate some bugs you've been dealing with and so on. They're updating that all the time now. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's
You bet.
probably where she did it incorrectly.
I'm sorry. Dave, I have a quick question. Do you know what's the difference between Google Meet and Zoom?
Oh, Google Meet.
Yes.
Google Meet is their new Hangout, what they used to call Hangouts, which is another video conferencing, video chat tool. It's got some nice features to it, and it's free for limited use anyway. I'm not sure about capacities and things like that, because I don't use it very often because I have a free Zoom account. But they're systems that accomplish more or less the same thing in more or less the same way. Zoom's great advantage is its relative simplicity and its reliability. And that's why everybody in the world is using Zoom. I've seen adoption curves on the various different and there are more video conferencing tools than that out there now. And Zoom is used far more often than anything else.
Excuse me if
yes.
Excuse me, if everybody's using Zoom,
right?
Is that why I get kicked out sometime because there's too many people using Zoom?
Probably not. That probably has more to do with your local internet connection than with Zoom. But Zoom has shown some strain from time to time. I mean, they went from, in about a space of about 2 months, they went from maybe 20,000 users a day to 300,000 users a day. And it's just been going up since then. That's old data. So we're always wondering if Zoom is going to start to bend and maybe eventually break, but it hasn't happened yet. I mean, look at our experience today. It's been wonderful. So Zoom, for ease of use and reliability, Zoom pretty much has them all beat, but I'd try it. Try Google Meets and play. It's got some nice features to it.
One of the nice features, excuse me, one of the nice features is that the students can, I think, change the language perhaps on it, or it automatically gives copyrights. I'm not sure it does.
Yeah, it has a real-time captioning function.
Right.
That works surprisingly well, and you can do it in multiple languages. But the rest of Google Meets is probably not as good as Zoom. And another factor to consider is that your students by now are very familiar, most of them are very familiar with Zoom.
Yeah.
If you throw another tool at them,
I know,
that's going to be another learning curve. But I like it, and it does work pretty well. But overall quality, ease of use, and reliability, Zoom still has them all beat, in my opinion.
Hey, Dave, this is Marlene. I had a question
Yes.
about, I see some people have their names there, but some people have a picture that are not, where their video is off.
Well, some people have just a name, and some have both a name and a picture. And pardon me just a second, I just realized that I had a slide up behind me that says, "Shut up." That is definitely not something I want to be doing. So now, yes, that depends, whether you have a picture, when you turn your video off, which I can do by clicking my little video camera icon in the Zoom menus, I can turn that off, and there's my profile picture. So that's what you see when people have their video turned off.
But how do I get my profile picture on
But
there?
how do you get one up there? Indeed.
Yeah.
You go to the Zoom website. Let me pull that up. Got that on here somewhere. There we go. If you go to zoom.us and log in as you, if you go to your profile in this menu over here,
right,
you'll either see a picture of yourself or a little silhouette here.
Oh, okay.
And you just, it'll say add if you don't have one already. So, but I could change that picture by uploading an image from my local computer. I think I have another image here. Well,
can I just take a picture in Zoom?
You can.
Okay.
And open that, and I can change my image. I can crop it. It forces you to crop it a little bit. You move that around and save that. And now that's my profile image. So I have to go back and find my real image now. I'll do that in a minute. Don't worry about that right now. But yes, you can, that's all you have to do. And that will provide people with a profile image that they will see when you turn your video off.
Okay, that's funny.
Okay. Good questions all. Do I hear any others?
I do have another question.
Good, good.
Hey, you inspired me. So yesterday when I had to do an announcement work for the certification class.
Oh yeah.
So I said, okay, so your voice was in my head. Now, I don't know if that's good or not good, but you're so calm when you explain. It's like, okay, Marlene, go here, okay. So what I did was I actually did a video announcement. It was so exciting.
Bless your heart. All right.
Very good, but I think I posted it properly, but then I copied the URL to send to my friend who's in the district, and she said she couldn't, from what I had copied, which was up top, she couldn't open it because she wasn't a student. So I want to know, how do I take that video announcement and send it to her?
That's a good question. Yeah, because that URL would have sent her to Canvas. And it would have tried to put her right into your course to view that announcement. And she's not enrolled in your course, so Canvas wouldn't let her in.
Okay.
What's the
Unless I let her in as a teacher friend.
Right. You can add her to your course. And then she'd be able to see it, but then she'd be able to see everything else too.
Oh, that's right.
And I don't know if you want to do that or not. That's up to you, though. That you get to control who sees your Canvas course. And if you want to add a colleague or like a student who is making up an incomplete or something like that, you can add them manually to your Canvas course, and you have the right to do that.
Oh, okay.
But what I might be tempted to do is to pull up a Zoom meeting with nobody but me in it and go to that announcement and play the video after recording, after starting the recording in Zoom.
Yeah. Yes.
And then just send her the link to the Zoom recording of it.
Oh, okay.
That's what we call screencasting. And you can do that with Zoom. And it's real easy to do because it's just like recording a Zoom meeting. It's just a real short meeting and you're the only one in it.
Okay.
But that works fine.
Okay. No, I wanted to thank you because I, made a joke about you being in my brain, but it's good because you just go step by step, and I tend to get like,
thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's like, but it's like, no, just to go to the right, click the button. So it's like you've got me on a different speed, which is better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try to be clear. We all do when we're teaching. And we all know we succeed sometimes and don't others. But I have been practicing this for, God, I added it up the other day. I've been teaching at one level or another for almost 50 years.
Whoa, that's wonderful.
So Okay, that does. You really don't want to follow that kind of calculation to its logical conclusion.
Dave, I have a question.
Good.
Okay. Sometimes, actually, this is in the online faculty certification course.
Yes.
Some of the presenters, when they use, I don't know, Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic, they're able
Screencast-O-Matic, I think they've used in there,
they,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are able to blur the names of the students. And how do they do that?
That is an annotation tool. I think you can do that. Yeah, you can do that in Screencast-O-Matic. You do have to have a paid account, I believe, to get access to features like that. But Screencast-O-Matic only wants $20 a year, so they're not asking for a lot. Let me see.
What is the name of the feature?
That's what I don't remember. I know how to do that in Camtasia, but I don't remember right offhand in Screencast-O-Matic. But I've got a Screencast-O-Matic account, so let me pull that up and see. Let's see. Let's just search for it. Blur in Screencast-O-Matic. I think I do. Overlay blur is what it's called in Screencast-O-Matic.
Okay.
And here is a tutorial video made in Screencast-O-Matic that will show you how to do that. Let me send you that link. Isn't Google wonderful? They get some static sometimes about privacy violations and things like that, and sometimes they deserve it. But overall, they provide a lot of wonderful services for not a whole lot of cost. And here's that link. I just put it in the chat tool.
Thank you. Another question I have is,
yes,
one of the presenters in, I think it's at one, inserted her picture. It wasn't a video that was embedded. It was just her picture popped up in the middle of the page that she was talking about. It had no borders, and I thought it was very nice, and I don't know how she did that.
So you were watching a video tutorial?
Yeah, it was a video, right? One of those, either was a bite-sized
right
canvas or something like that, and her picture popped up in the middle of the page that she was presenting to students.
Right. Of course, you can do that in a Zoom meeting just by having your picture in a window.
No, this was in Canvas, not Zoom.
Off screen. Yeah, but we don't know what she used to make that recording. Is what I'm saying. She might have done it in Zoom, and you can just drag in a picture of yourself. Let me pull one up here.
While you're answering questions, maybe I'll be able to go back into the course and find it for you to share.
You bet. Yeah, and you share it with me and we can see.
Okay.
So if I'll just take Bullwinkle there.
Actually, it was not a picture. I'm sorry, Dave. It wasn't a picture. She was actually speaking. It was a video.
It was a video. Okay, that does limit the possibilities then. She probably did that with a video editor like Camtasia or another Premiere or Adobe Premiere or whatever. there are ways you can overlay one video on another and have them both play at the same time.
I see. I'm gonna
And
try to
that,
find it.
that's another class.
Okay. And I was not able to update my account, my Zoom account. I don't know why. I followed. Let's see. Well, maybe for the end of your Zoom presentation.
Well, no, it might not allow you to do it while you're in a meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but yeah, if you get to this point, to this Zoom client, you should be able to click on your profile image and check for updates. But I can well imagine it wouldn't let you do that while you were in a meeting.
I didn't
because
see anything.
you would lose your Zoom meeting for a moment if it allowed you to do that.
I see. Yeah, I couldn't find the update button.
Oh, okay. Well, that again, that's in the Zoom client window, not on the Zoom website. You can't update your Zoom client from the website. You have to, if you go to your search box, application search box, and type in Zoom, you'll find a Start Zoom app.
Okay.
And it'll be in your ribbon at the bottom of the screen on a Mac. If you click on that, you get this picture that looks like you get this window that looks like this. It'll have this little picture in it with the time and the date and so on. This is your Zoom client window, and the Zoom client is automatically installed on your computer when you join a Zoom meeting. I mean, it's been there forever for most of us.
Okay, I will
And
try.
that's where you go to your profile picture, not on the Zoom website. Let me pull that up.
Which is where I was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you want to be in the client window, and then you'll find that check for updates button in the menu, and that will allow you to update that. But it's not, like I say, it will happen anyway, whether you do it manually or not. If you do it in advance, though, you won't be delayed the next time you try to start a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have a question?
I do.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, so I waited for the end of this because this is a remedial problem. I'm having, I understand how to share screen, but I have a problem that I can't get what I want to share onto the window.
Okay, I think I know what's happening there.
Okay.
And I think you'll be able to see this since I found that setting. If I click share screen, as you would, the little share screen button down there, I get this intermediate window where I tell Zoom what I want to share, and I select options like sharing computer sound or maybe optimizing it for video.
Right, my issue is that the thing that I wanted to share is not on that window.
Okay, what you want to do 99% of the time is just share your desktop.
Okay.
And that's the default. If you just click share here and then share here, you'll be sharing your desktop.
Okay.
And then anything that appears on your desktop, on your computer screen, will be shared with your students.
Okay.
No matter what.
One time I tried to get back to the Zoom, to, the regular get out of the share screen, and didn't work out for me.
To get out of sharing your screen, you should see at the top or bottom of your screen, oops, and I'm not sharing, excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, I'm sharing now. At the top or bottom of your screen, you'll see a little bar like this. It's very colorful. It's hard to miss.
Yeah.
And here's where you stop your share.
Okay. Well, it sounds very easy.
Now I'm not sharing anymore. Now you're just seeing me or everybody else and me.
Yeah.
But that's how you stop a share.
Well, it sounds so easy. I don't know how I'm messing this up. I don't know.
What usually happens in something like this is that folks go to this intermediate share window and they see what they want to share and they click on it.
Okay.
But in that event, they're sharing just that window. So then if you bring up another application, you want to share that window, it doesn't share.
Right.
So the safe thing is always to take the default and share the desktop.
Okay.
That shares everything that appears on your monitor.
Okay.
No matter what. So.
Okay. That was my mistake. Thank you so much, Dave. You're a wonderful teacher.
That's a mistake I've made too. So that's how I was able to figure that one out fairly quickly.
Okay. Yeah, you're a wonderful teacher for us. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
Hey, Dave, I have one quick question.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm setting up my module, the welcome module for the students in my shell.
Excellent.
Yeah, so can I require attendance to a Zoom meeting? Like if I give, I don't know that I can.
If the course is going to be labeled as fully online, which probably will be,
right,
then no, you can't require it.
Oh, okay.
You can strongly suggest it, however.
Okay.
And suggest that there will be great value in attending. And you can do things like give extra credit points every now and then. In the middle of a live meeting, you have to be present to win, kind of thing. There are all sorts of little tricks you can use, or motivational items you can use to make people want to attend. Without being too obvious about it. And of course, you will in all probability be recording the session. So even the people who choose not to or can't attend live at that time can view it later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still really worth it to have real-time Zoom sessions with your students in a fully online course, even if not all of them attend.
Yes.
Because many of them will benefit from it later.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones who choose not to, well, okay, you can't make them drink, but you can certainly make sure that the water is very accessible. So I encourage you to do that, even if you can't absolutely require it.
Because most of them, they love the Zoom meetings because they get to see their friends and part of the ESL. But I think the people that don't are actually usually technologically or digitally afraid or don't know, or like I had one older lady and she tried to do it on her phone and she couldn't, so she just
gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and very often it's the people who need it the most who have the problems, I know.
Right.
Or the people who should be doing it who choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's unfortunately a big part of teaching. And all you can do is your best to motivate them. And if they choose not to take advantage of it, but if they have problems, challenges that prevent them from taking advantage of it and they want to, then we want to do everything we can to help them. And you're welcome to refer them to me.
Oh, okay.
And I'll work with them.
Oh, okay.
And I have some credibility with that, the set who are challenged because of longevity, because I'm obviously one of them.
And so am I, and that's why I thank you for your patience for leading us all through this. It's been great.
Well, I'm so happy you're getting something out of it. I hope you enjoyed the fun parts of Zoom today. And if you have any questions, if anything else comes along, please let me know. I will be happy to to answer any questions that you have. And I will look forward to hearing from you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. I'll see you
All
Monday.
right. We all have a wonderful weekend and a safe one.
You
Remember,
too.
that stuff is still floating around out there.
Yeah.
And people, and enough of us here are in the category of really bad risk for that thing. So be careful, please. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Take care.